Undercover owner buys private jet at his own dealership, stops cold when he hears two employees behind. Alexander Chase hadn't worn jeans in 15 years. As the owner of Skyward Elite, North America's most prestigious private jet dealership, his wardrobe consisted exclusively of custom Italian suits and hand-stitched Oxford shoes. But today, he stood before his bedroom mirror adjusting a pair of designer jeans that cost more than some cars, paired with a casually elegant blazer and loafers that screamed old money without shouting it. "You look different," his wife Sarah remarked, leaning against the doorframe. "Almost like when we first met before all this." She gestured vaguely at the mansion's master suite. "That's the point," Alex replied, carefully messing up his usually perfectly coiffed hair. "Nobody at the dealership should recognize me. Most of them have never even met me in person. Perks of running things from the corporate office." What he didn't tell Sarah was the gnawing feeling in his gut that had driven him to this elaborate charade. 3 months of irregular numbers in the books. Small discrepancies in client data access logs. Nothing concrete enough to justify a formal investigation, but enough to keep him awake at night. The plan was simple: walk into his own dealership as Marcus Reynolds, a tech entrepreneur looking to upgrade from his modest Cessna Citation to something more substantial. His security chief, James Wong, would pose as another browser, keeping watch from a distance. As Alex, now Marcus, pulled up to Skyward Elite in a rented Porsche 911, he felt a flutter of nervousness he hadn't experienced since his first real estate deal decades ago. The familiar glass and steel building rose before him, its massive hangar doors gleaming in the morning sun. Through the windows, he could see the silhouettes of sleek private jets worth hundreds of millions of dollars. "Welcome to Skyward Elite," a young receptionist chirped as he entered. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Alex replied, adopting the slightly bored tone of someone who wasn't used to being questioned. "But I'm in the market for a Global 7500, and I heard you might have one available." The receptionist's eyes widened slightly. The Global 7500 was a $75 million aircraft. She quickly pressed a button on her desk. Within moments, a tall man in an impeccable suit appeared, his smile as polished as his shoes. "Thomas Burke, Senior Sales Director," he introduced himself, extending a manicured hand. "I understand you're interested in our Global 7500? Alex had never met Burke in person, but he knew the name. Top performer 3 years running, responsible for over $300 million in sales last year alone. As they shook hands, Alex noticed something odd, a slight tremor in Burke's grip, barely noticeable but definitely there. "Marcus Reynolds," Alex responded. "And yes, though I'm open to other options. The Citation is becoming a bit cramped for my needs." Burke's eyes lit up at the mention of an existing aircraft. A genuine buyer then, not a dreamer. "Let me show you around our showroom. We have several options that might interest someone of your discerning taste." As they walked through the climate-controlled showroom, Alex played his part perfectly. He asked intelligent questions about range and fuel efficiency, dropped casual references to his frequent routes between Silicon Valley and Asian tech hubs, and let slip mentions of his recent IPO. Burke grew more animated with each passing minute, clearly sensing a substantial commission in his future. But something was off. Every few minutes, Burke would check his phone, his expression flickering with what looked like anxiety before returning to his smooth sales persona. When they passed other employees, Alex noticed subtle glances exchanged, loaded with meaning he couldn't decipher. "The Global 7500's cabin is divided into 4 distinct living spaces," Burke was saying as they entered the flagship aircraft. "You can host a meeting in the conference room while your family relaxes in the entertainment suite." Alex ran his hand along the leather seats, thinking about how many times he'd been involved in selecting these exact materials. Then he heard it, voices drifting up from below the aircraft, where the maintenance bay was located. "Tonight. It has to be tonight." The voice was urgent, frustrated. "Are you insane? That's too fast." Another voice, younger, terrified. "They're already offering 7 figures. If we wait, someone else might." Burke's phone buzzed again, and he stepped away to answer it, leaving Alex alone in the cabin. Moving silently, Alex positioned himself near the aircraft's open door, straining to hear more. The contact says if we can get them the complete client profiles, flight patterns, maintenance schedules, financial details, they'll wire the money immediately. The first voice again, now recognizable as Derek Matthews, one of the back-office administrators. But the security protocols. The second voice belonged to someone younger, probably one of the new IT hires. Are already handled. I've got access to everything. We just need to move fast before. The conversation cut off abruptly as Burke's footsteps returned. Alex's mind was racing. He'd expected to find something during his undercover visit. Perhaps employees padding maintenance bills or offering unauthorized discounts. But this was far worse. My apologies, Mr. Reynolds, Burke said smoothly. A small matter with another client. Now, shall we discuss the entertainment system specifications? Alex nodded, maintaining his interested buyer facade while his thoughts whirled. His clients included CEOs, celebrities, and politicians, people whose private travel patterns were worth fortunes to the right buyers. If that information was compromised. As Burke launched into another practice spiel about cabin acoustics, Alex caught sight of James Wong moving casually through the showroom, looking for all the world like another wealthy browser. Their eyes met briefly, and Alex gave an imperceptible nod. The trap would need to be set carefully. Very carefully. Mr. Burke. Alex interrupted the sales pitch. I think I've seen enough of this model. But before I make any decisions, I'd like to discuss some custom requirements. Perhaps over dinner? Burke's smile widened, but that tremor in his hands returned. Of course, Mr. Reynolds. I know just the place. As they walked back through the showroom, Alex pulled out his phone, pretending to check his calendar while actually sending a coded text to Wong. The game was on, but the stakes were far higher than he'd imagined. Someone was trying to sell out his company, his clients, and everything he'd spent decades building. And they had no idea that the owner himself was about to stop them. After scheduling dinner with Burke for 8 p.m. at an upscale steakhouse, Alex deliberately lingered in the showroom. He noticed Matthews and the younger employee, whose name badge read Kevin Chin, disappearing into the maintenance bay. Burke had excused himself to prepare some paperwork, his anxiety poorly masked beneath professional courtesy. Would you like me to show you anything else while you wait, Mr. Reynolds? The receptionist asked, clearly trained to keep potential buyers engaged. Actually, Alex replied, adopting an air of casual interest. I'd love to see your maintenance facilities. In my experience, the real measure of a dealership isn't the showroom, it's the service bay. The receptionist hesitated. I'll need to check if. Is there a problem? Alex raised an eyebrow, letting a hint of impatience color his tone. I'm considering making a rather substantial investment here. Surely seeing your maintenance operations isn't off limits? James Wong, still maintaining his cover as another browser, positioned himself near the corridor leading to the maintenance bay. Alex caught his subtle hand signal. Matthews and Chen were still down there. Of course not, sir. The receptionist quickly recovered. Let me get someone to escort you. No need. Alex waved her off. I can find my way. Sometimes it's better to see things unfiltered. He moved toward the maintenance bay before she could object further. The temperature dropped noticeably as he descended the stairs to the lower level. The pristine showroom aesthetics gave way to industrial functionality, tool cabinets, diagnostic equipment, and the faint smell of jet fuel. But what caught his attention was the voices echoing from behind a partially closed door marked Records Office. You don't understand, Kevin, Matthews was saying, his voice tense. This isn't just about money. They have leverage. Alex pressed himself against the wall, his heart pounding. Wong had positioned himself at the top of the stairs, ready to intervene if needed. What kind of leverage? Chen's voice shook slightly. Remember that fuel efficiency reporting glitch last quarter? It wasn't a glitch. We've been falsifying numbers for certain clients, making their jets look more efficient than they are to help close sales. Burke's been orchestrating it for months. Alex felt his blood run cold. This was bigger than data theft. They were compromising his company's integrity on multiple fronts. Jesus, Derek. Chen's voice dropped to a whisper. That's fraud. We could all go to jail. Exactly. And our friends at VistaJets found out. Now they want our client data, or they go public with the fuel efficiency scandal. Burke's involved up to his neck. Why do you think he's been so jumpy lately? The pieces clicked into place. Burke's trembling hands, the frequent phone checks, the nervous glances. His top salesman wasn't just complicit. He was orchestrating the whole thing. But why tonight? Chen pressed. Why the rush? Because... Matthews lowered his voice further, forcing Alex to strain to hear. Burke found out this morning that corporate is sending auditors next week. Some kind of random review. We need to move everything before they arrive. Alex had to fight back a smile. There was no audit planned, but after his text to Wang, there would be one announced within the hour. His trap was already forcing them to act hastily. The data transfer isn't the problem, Matthews continued. I've got admin access to everything. The challenge is getting it out without triggering security protocols. That's where you come in, Kevin. We need your credentials to bypass the firewalls. And if I say no, then Burke ensures you take the fall for the fuel efficiency reports. Your digital signature is all over them, even though we both know you were just following orders. The silence that followed was heavy with implications. Alex could practically feel Chen's moral struggle radiating through the door. How? Chen finally spoke, his voice barely audible. How much are they paying? 2 million, split 4 ways. Burke, me, you, and our inside contact at Vista. Enough to disappear somewhere nice when this all blows up. Alex had heard enough. He pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. J need full surveillance on Burke, Matthews, Chen. Monitor all data access. Let them think they're in the clear. I want them caught in the act. As he turned to leave, his expensive loafer squeaked against the polished concrete floor. The conversation behind the door stopped abruptly. Hello? Matthews called out. Someone there? Alex moved quickly but naturally, as if he just reached the bottom of the stairs. Ah, hello, he called back cheerfully. Marcus Reynolds, I'm with Mr. Burke upstairs. Wanted to take a look at your maintenance setup. Matthews emerged from the office, Chen behind him looking pale and shaken. Sir, this area is restricted without an escort. Let me take you back upstairs. Of course, my apologies. Alex smiled disarmingly. I'm quite interested in your maintenance protocols, actually. Over my years of flying, I've found that preventive maintenance records can tell you everything about a dealership's true quality. Matthews forced a smile, but Alex caught the flash of panic in his eyes. Mr. Burke can provide all our maintenance documentation upstairs. Shall we? As they climbed the stairs, Alex noticed Matthews and Chen exchange a quick glance. They were probably wondering how much he'd heard, whether their plans were compromised. Little did they know that their buyer's innocent maintenance curiosity had just exposed a conspiracy that would bring down their entire operation. Back in the showroom, Burke was waiting, his composed facade firmly back in place. Mr. Reynolds, I have those preliminary documents for you to review before dinner. Excellent, Alex replied, accepting the folder. I'm looking forward to discussing everything in detail tonight. He emphasized the last words slightly, watching Burke's expression for any reaction. There it was, the smallest twitch of anxiety. Burke knew that tonight wasn't just about selling a jet. It was about saving himself from a scheme that was rapidly unraveling. As Alex walked to his rented Porsche, he felt the weight of what he'd uncovered. His company, his client's trust, and his life's work were all at risk. But now he had something his enemies didn't, the element of surprise. Tonight's dinner would just be the beginning. The real show would unfold in the darkness that followed, when desperate people made desperate moves, and walked right into his trap. Inside his temporary office at the Four Seasons Hotel, Alex paced while James Wong pulled up files on a secure laptop. They had 2 hours before the dinner with Burke, and every minute was crucial. "Show me everything we have on Burke's sales records," Alex demanded, loosening his disguise's designer tie. The hotel suite had become their impromptu command center, with encrypted communication lines and multiple screens displaying surveillance feeds from the dealership. "It's worse than we thought," Wong said, turning the laptop. "I've been cross-referencing the fuel efficiency reports Matthews mentioned. The falsified data goes back 18 months, affecting at least 35 aircraft sales." Alex sank into a chair, running his hands through his hair. "Who are we looking at? Major clients? Tech CEOs, 2 Hollywood production companies, even a Middle Eastern royal family." Wong pulled up a spreadsheet. "They were all promised fuel consumption rates that are physically impossible for these aircraft to achieve. And VistaJet's found out somehow," Alex muttered. "But why go after our client data? They could have just exposed the fraud." "Because the client data is worth more," a new voice said. Catherine Wu, Alex's chief legal counsel, entered the suite, carrying a thick folder. "I've been analyzing Vista's recent market moves. They're planning to expand into Asia, targeting the exact high-net-worth demographic that makes up our client base." Alex connected the dots. "With our clients' flight patterns and financial profiles, they could undercut us on every route, customize their offerings to match our clients' exact needs, and essentially hijack our entire Asia-Pacific market," Catherine finished. "The fuel efficiency scandal is just leverage. What they really want is a shortcut to market dominance." "But there's something else," Wong interjected, pulling up another file. "I did background checks on everyone involved. Burke's finances showed something interesting. He's been making regular payments to a private medical facility in Switzerland." Alex leaned forward. "His wife? His daughter? She has a rare genetic condition. The treatment costs are astronomical, well beyond even his commissions." The revelation hit Alex hard. He had children of his own. The thought of Burke's desperation, of a father driven to betray everything for his child's survival, added an unexpected layer of complexity to the situation. "That's why Vista chose him," Catherine observed. "They found his pressure point." "And Matthews?" Alex asked. Wong pulled up another screen. "Gambling debts. Lots of them. He's been borrowing from some very dangerous people. As for Chen, he's clean, actually. Just a kid who got caught up in something bigger than himself." Alex stood, walking to the window. Below, Los Angeles sprawled out in the late afternoon sun, a maze of possibilities and consequences. His reflection stared back at him, still wearing the disguise that had revealed so much. "If this gets out," he said slowly, "it's not just about lost clients or market share. We're talking about criminal charges, class action lawsuits, regulatory investigations. Hundreds of jobs at risk. Everyone who's ever trusted our brand." "There's more," Catherine interrupted, her voice grim. "I've been going through our client contracts. The privacy clauses are ironclad. If our clients find out their personal data was compromised, they could sue us for billions. The company wouldn't survive." Alex turned back to his team. "How many people have access to the client database?" "That's another problem," Wong said. "Matthews shouldn't have admin access at all. Someone higher up had to grant it to him. Someone with executive-level clearance." The implication hung in the air. There was another player involved, someone at the top of Skyward Elite's corporate structure. "Pull up the access logs," Alex ordered. "I want to know every person who's touched those files in the last year." As Wong worked, Alex's phone buzzed. A text from Burke. "Looking forward to dinner, Mr. Reynolds. I've taken the liberty of reserving a private room at Providence. More discreet for discussing specifications." "They're nervous," Catherine observed, reading over his shoulder. "The audit announcement has them spooked." "Good," Alex replied, typing a confirmation. "But we need to be careful. If they suspect anything." "About that," Wong interrupted, staring at his screen. You need to see this. The access logs showed a pattern. Late-night data queries, systematic copying of client profiles, all traced back to one executive login credential. The username made Alex's blood run cold. That's impossible, he whispered. That's Sarah's login. His wife. The woman who had watched him dress for this operation this morning. Who had access to everything. Who had been acting slightly off for weeks. It could be a stolen credential, Catherine suggested, but her voice lacked conviction. Alex's mind raced back through recent months. Sarah's late nights at the office, her increased interest in the Asian market expansion, her subtle suggestions about modernizing their client data systems. Phone records, he barked at Wang. I want every call she's made in the last 6 months. As Wang pulled up the data, Alex's phone buzzed again. Sarah. How's the undercover work going, darling? Found anything interesting? His fingers hovered over the keyboard. Everything had just become exponentially more complicated. If Sarah was involved, she knew his cover was blown. If she wasn't, warning her could tip off the real conspirators. We have 2 hours until dinner, he finally said, pocketing his phone without responding. I want everything you can find on Sarah's communications, especially with Vista Jets. Catherine, prepare containment strategies for both scenarios, with and without executive involvement. James, get teams in place at every exit point of the dealership. Nobody moves those files without us knowing. And Burke? Wang asked. I'm still having dinner with him, Alex said grimly. But first, I need to make a stop at home. If Sarah's involved, there might be evidence there. If she's not, she could be in danger, Catherine finished. If Vista really has someone at the executive level, and they think she suspects something. Alex checked his watch. 2 hours to dinner. 2 hours to figure out if his wife was a conspirator or a potential victim. 2 hours to prevent his company's collapse while protecting his family. The sun was setting over Los Angeles, painting the sky in shades of red. Somewhere in the gathering darkness, files were being prepared, plans were being finalized, and people he had trusted were preparing to destroy everything he had built. But they didn't know what he knew. And as Alex headed for his car, he allowed himself a small, dangerous smile. Because sometimes, the bigger the betrayal, the sweeter the justice. James, he called over his shoulder. Make sure the private room at Providence is bugged. I want every word Burke says on record. It was time to find out just how deep this conspiracy went, even if it led straight to his own bedroom. The drive home felt like navigating through a dream. Alex's mind raced through years of memories with Sarah, searching for signs he might have missed. The late-night phone calls she claimed were about Asian market expansion. The convenient business trips that aligned perfectly with Vista Jet's corporate events. The subtle suggestions about modernizing their client data systems. As he pulled into their gated driveway, he noticed Sarah's Mercedes was gone. A text lit up his phone. Had to run to the office, darling. Emergency meeting about the audit. Don't wait up if your investigation runs late. Love you. The message might as well have been written in neon warning signs. Wang, Alex spoke into his encrypted phone. Sarah's headed to the office. Get me eyes on her. Already on it, Wang replied. I've got people tracking her car. But Alex, there's something else. Those Swiss medical payments from Burke? They're being routed through a shell company. Guess who's the silent partner? Alex stopped halfway up the mansion steps. Sarah? The company was registered 3 months after Burke's daughter was diagnosed. It's a clever setup, looks like legitimate medical funding on paper, but it's a perfect channel for moving large sums of money. Inside the house, Alex moved silently through rooms that suddenly felt foreign. Their shared office was exactly as it always was, immaculate, organized, with matching his and hers desks facing each other like chess players about to start a game. He sat at Sarah's desk, fingers hovering over her laptop. Part of him still hoped there was an explanation, that he was wrong about everything. I'm in position at Providence. Wang continued through his earpiece. Burke just arrived, 40 minutes early. He's making a lot of calls. Record everything, Alex ordered, starting to search Sarah's desk. Catherine, what's happening at the dealership? Matthews and Chin are still in the building. Catherine's voice crackled. They've accessed the client database 3 times in the last hour. They're getting sloppy. In the bottom drawer of Sarah's desk, behind a false panel that almost escaped his notice, Alex found what he was looking for. A small red notebook, filled with Sarah's elegant handwriting. Dates, amounts, account numbers, and names. So many names? She's been planning this for over a year, he whispered, flipping through pages. The fuel efficiency scandal, the data theft, everything. Burke and Matthews were just pawns. Alex, Wong's voice was urgent. Sarah just arrived at Providence. She's heading to Burke's table. Alex's blood ran cold. The pieces clicked together with terrible clarity. She's not there for Burke. She's there to meet me, or rather, to meet Marcus Reynolds. But how could she? Because she planned this whole thing. Alex cut him off, taking pictures of the notebook's pages. She knew I'd notice the irregularities eventually. Knew I'd investigate personally. She wanted me to find Burke and Matthews. A distraction, Catherine breathed. While we're focused on them. The real data transfer is probably happening right now. Alex finished. Wong, delay Sarah. Tell the restaurant there's a problem with the reservation. Catherine, get to the server room. Nobody touches those computers. Alex rushed to his car, mind racing. Sarah had played him perfectly. She knew his patterns, his methods, how he thought. While he was focused on the obvious conspiracy, she was probably executing the real plan. Alex, Catherine's voice was tense. We've got movement in the server room. Someone's logged in with executive credentials, but it's not Sarah's login this time. It's yours. Of course. She'd had access to his passwords for years. Already in his car, Alex pressed the accelerator harder. Status on Matthews and Chin? Still in the building, Catherine reported. They look nervous, keeping to themselves. I don't think they know about Sarah's involvement. They're the fall guys, Alex realized. If anything goes wrong, the evidence points to them. A desperate salesman with gambling debts, an administrator with suspicious access, and a coerced ID tech. The perfect scapegoats. Burke's getting agitated. Wong cut in. Sarah's still in the lobby. I've got the host stalling her with wine lists and menu options. But Burke keeps checking his phone. Alex's car wove through traffic as the city lights blurred around him. Keep them separated. Burke probably doesn't know Sarah's real role either. If they talk... Movement in the server room, Catherine interrupted. Large data transfer starting. They're copying everything, client files, financial records, internal communications. Can you stop it? Not without shutting down the whole system. Alex, this isn't just theft. They're planting something too. Some kind of program embedding itself in our networks. Alex's hands tightened on the steering wheel. A backdoor. Even if we catch them, they'll have ongoing access to everything. He was 10 minutes from the dealership. 10 minutes in which his entire company could be gutted from the inside out. New problem. Wong's voice crackled. Sarah's gone. What do you mean gone? She got a phone call, went outside to take it, and disappeared. Her car's still here, but... She's headed to the dealership. Alex cut him off. All units converge on the server room. But nobody moves until I give the word. Catherine, let the data transfer continue. We need to catch them in the act. As he pulled into the dealership's parking lot, Alex saw Sarah's familiar figure slipping in through a side entrance. She moved with purpose, confident that her plan was working perfectly. Wong, get Burke to the dealership. Tell him there's a problem with the transfer. Catherine, make sure Matthews and Chin stay put. Nobody spooks them. Alex checked his reflection in the rearview mirror. He was still wearing his Marcus Reynolds disguise, and for the first time today, he was glad for it. In the gathering darkness, he could be anyone. The side door opened silently under his touch. Somewhere in this building, his wife was betraying him, Burke was unwittingly playing his part, and two desperate employees were about to learn they were sacrificial pawns in a much bigger game. "All units in position," Wong confirmed softly in his ear. Alex smiled grimly as he moved through the shadowed corridor. Sarah had planned everything perfectly, accounting for every variable. Except one. She'd forgotten that he could play dress-up too. The trap was set. But not the one she'd planned for. "Let the games begin," he whispered, and stepped into the darkness. The server room hummed with the sound of countless fans and drives, a technological heartbeat that had never seemed so ominous. Through the glass walls, Alex could see Sarah's silhouette, her fingers dancing across a keyboard with practiced precision. She tied her blonde hair back, ready for business, just as she did every morning at their home office. "Burke's 5 minutes out," Wong whispered through the earpiece. "Matthews and Chin are still in their office, getting anxious." Alex checked his watch. 8:47 p.m. The data transfer was at 67% according to Catherine's last update. Everything was aligned perfectly. Too perfectly. "Wait!" he suddenly commanded, stopping short of the server room door. "Catherine, check the building's power grid." A few seconds of typing sounds came through his earpiece. "My God!" Catherine breathed. "There's a surge protector installed on the main grid, added last week. If we cut power to stop the transfer, it would trigger a backup system," Alex finished. "One that would probably complete the transfer and wipe the evidence simultaneously." She really did think of everything. He watched Sarah through the glass, remembering their first date 15 years ago. She'd been brilliant then, a financial prodigy who saw patterns others missed. He'd loved that about her. Never imagined those same skills would be turned against him. "New plan," he announced softly. "Catherine, initiate Protocol 0. Alex, that's extreme. It'll shut down everything, communications, security systems, even emergency lights." "Exactly. But it'll bypass the surge protector because it's a software shutdown, not a power cut. On my mark." He could see Sarah inserting what looked like an external drive into one of the main servers. The final stage of her plan, probably containing the backdoor program Catherine had detected. "Burke's pulling in," Wong reported. "Matthews just texted him, asking what's going on. They're spooked." Alex took a deep breath, adjusted his Marcus Reynolds disguise one last time, and stepped forward. "Execute Protocol 0. Now." The effect was immediate and dramatic. Every screen went dark. Every fan stopped spinning. Even the emergency lights failed to kick in. The only illumination came from the city lights filtering through distant windows. "What the hell?" Sarah's voice carried clearly in the sudden silence. She was good. Her tone held exactly the right amount of professional concern, not panic. "Server problems?" Alex asked pleasantly, stepping into the room. He kept his Marcus Reynolds voice steady, with just a hint of amusement. Sarah spun around, her face perfectly composed despite the darkness. "Mr. Reynolds? I'm afraid you're in a restricted area." "Oh, I know exactly where I am, Sarah." He reached up and slowly peeled off the prosthetic additions to his face. "The question is, do you?" The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah's composure cracked for just a moment, a flicker of genuine surprise before her mask slid back into place. "Well," she finally said, her voice cool. "This is awkward." "Awkward?" Alex felt laughter bubble up, harsh and unfamiliar. "That's what you're going with. Not I can explain or it's not what it looks like. Would you believe either of those lines?" Sarah's hand was moving slowly toward her pocket. "The phone's not going to help," Alex told her. "The whole building's dark. No signals in or out. Just you and me, and about a dozen federal agents waiting outside." That got a reaction, a genuine one. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Did you really think I wouldn't have a contingency plan for corporate espionage? That I wouldn't have federal contacts after 20 years in this business?" Footsteps echoed in the corridor, multiple sets, running. Burke appeared in the doorway first, his face flushed. Matthews and Chin were right behind him, with Wong's team shepherding them. Mrs. Chase, Burke stammered. I can explain. Shut up, Thomas, Sarah snapped, her composure finally cracking. None of you idiots were supposed to be here tonight. That's right, Alex said quietly. They were just your scapegoats. The desperate father with medical bills. The gambling addict. The coerced young tech. All perfect patsies for when the theft was discovered. Chen's face went pale. Theft? Mrs. Chase, you said this was about internal restructuring, protecting client data from external threats. She lied, Kevin, Alex told him gently. Just like she lied about the fuel efficiency reports. Just like she's been lying to everyone for months. Not to everyone, Sarah corrected, her voice hard. Vista's board knows exactly what they're getting. And they're paying very well for it. 7 figures wasn't enough? Alex asked. All those years we built this company together, and you sell it out for a competitor's CEO position. Sarah cut him off. Full control of their Asian expansion. This was never about money, Alex. It was about getting out of your shadow. The external drive was still plugged into the server. In the dim light, Alex could see its light blinking steadily, the transfer continuing despite the shutdown. Wong, he said quietly. Show them. James Wong stepped forward, holding up a phone. On its screen, a video played, Sarah in a hotel room 3 months ago, meeting with Vista's board. The audio was crystal clear. Once the data's transferred and the backdoor's in place, Skyward Elite will collapse within 6 months. Their clients will come to us naturally. Sarah's face went very still. How long have you known? Known? About 2 hours. Suspected? Since that meeting. Did you really think that hotel's security system wouldn't flag a competitor's entire board arriving secretly through the service entrance? The federal agents, she asked, are actually here this time. Along with enough evidence to put you and Vista's board away for a very long time. He paused. Unless what? Unless you give up Vista's board. All of them. Times, dates, recordings, everything. You do that, maybe we can talk about a deal. Sarah laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. You trust me to make a deal? Now? Trust? No. But I know you, Sarah. You've always kept receipts. Insurance policies. I bet there's enough evidence in that red notebook to destroy half the private aviation industry. Her hand twitched toward her bag. You found it. Did you want me to? Was that part of the plan too? Leave just enough breadcrumbs. In case it went wrong. She finished. Yes. I learned that from you, actually. Always have a backup plan. The sound of helicopters became audible outside. Real ones this time, not police. Through the windows, spotlights began sweeping the building. Time to choose, Sarah, Alex said softly. But choose quickly. The next sound you hear will be federal agents breaching every entrance. She looked at him for a long moment. The man she'd married, the man she'd betrayed, the man who'd finally caught her. Then she smiled, reached into her bag, and pulled out a flash drive. Backup plan, she said simply, holding it out. Everything you need to take down Vista's entire board. Times, dates, accounts, everything. As Alex reached for the drive, Sarah added quietly. I really did love you, you know. Just not as much as I loved winning. The first explosion of entry charges echoed through the building. The game was over. And as federal agents swarmed into the server room, Alex looked at the woman he'd shared his life with and whispered, I know. That's why I won. 1 month later, Alex stood in his office at Skyward Elite, watching the sunset paint the private jets on the tarmac in shades of gold. The view hadn't changed, but everything else had. The morning's Financial Times lay on his desk, its headlines still sharp. Vista Jets board indicted in corporate espionage scandal. Below that, Skyward Elite emerges stronger after internal conspiracy exposed. The stories had been running for weeks, tales of corporate intrigue, betrayal, and justice that seemed more like thriller novel plots than business news. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. James Wong entered, carrying a thick folder. "Final security audit report," Wong announced, placing it on Alex's desk. "We've closed every vulnerability Sarah created. New encryption protocols, biometric verification for all sensitive areas, and a completely rebuilt client database system." Alex nodded, picking up the report. "And the clients? Surprisingly loyal, once they understood we caught the breach before any data was actually compromised. Your personal calls to each of them helped. The Saudi royal family even ordered 2 more jets last week. And Burke's daughter?" Wong's expression softened slightly. "The trust fund you set up will cover her medical treatments through college. Burke's cooperation with the investigation helped. He'll serve minimal time, mostly probation." "What about Chin?" "Starting his new position in IT security next week. The kid's brilliant, once he's pointed in the right direction. He's already designed 3 new security protocols for us." Alex walked to the window, remembering the night everything had come to a head. The federal agents swarming the building. Sarah's calm demeanor even in handcuffs. The look of relief on Chen's face when he learned he wouldn't be charged. Matthews breaking down and confessing everything. "The VistaJet's trial starts next month," Wong continued. "With Sarah's evidence and testimony, the prosecution's confident. Their entire board is looking at serious time. And Sarah? 5 years, with possibility of parole in 3. The DA was generous, given her cooperation. She's already at the minimum security facility in California." Alex picked up a framed photo from his desk. Him and Sarah at the company's 10th anniversary gala, both smiling, both seemingly happy. He opened his drawer, placed the photo inside, and closed it gently. "Sir?" Wong hesitated. "There's something else. Remember how we couldn't figure out who first tipped VistaJets off about the fuel efficiency reports?" Alex turned. "You found something?" "It was Robert Chin, Kevin's father. The board member? But he retired 2 years ago. Apparently not completely. He was consulting for Vista, feeding them information. That's why they targeted Kevin. They knew having his father's influence would make him more likely to cooperate." Alex sank into his chair, processing this new information. "Does Kevin know?" "Not yet. We thought you should decide how to handle it." Before Alex could respond, Catherine Wu entered the office, her usual composed demeanor brightened by obvious excitement. "The Asian expansion proposal just got approved by the board," she announced. "Full funding, complete support. Our legitimate expansion into the market Vista was trying to steal." "Any opposition?" Alex asked. "None. After everything that happened, the board trusts your judgment completely. Plus, the publicity from stopping the corporate espionage attempt has actually strengthened our brand. Clients see us as more secure, more trustworthy." Alex looked at the pile of contracts on his desk. New security measures for clients to sign, updated privacy protocols, partnership agreements with cybersecurity firms. The paperwork of rebuilding trust. "What about the employees?" he asked. "Morale's improving," Wong reported. "Your decision to be transparent about everything helped. The new profit-sharing program didn't hurt either." Alex stood, straightening his tie. "Schedule a company-wide meeting for tomorrow. It's time we talked about the future, not just the past." "And Kevin Chen's father?" Wong pressed. "Tell Kevin personally," Alex decided. "Offer him a chance to help us fix any remaining vulnerabilities his father might have created. Sometimes the best way to heal a betrayal is to help prevent the next one." As his executives left, Alex turned back to the window. The sun had set completely now, but the tarmac was still alive with activity. Mechanics performing final checks, pilots reviewing flight plans, clients arriving for evening departures. The daily ballet of luxury aviation continued, undisturbed by the drama that had nearly destroyed it all. His phone buzzed, a message from his lawyer. Sarah had signed the final divorce papers. It was really over. In his reflection in the window, Alex could almost see traces of Marcus Reynolds, the disguise that had helped him save his company. He'd kept the jeans, though. Some changes were worth keeping. A young employee hurried past his office, then backtracked and knocked on the open door. "Mr. Chase? Sorry to interrupt, but there's a client asking about fuel efficiency ratings for the new Global 7500. Alex smiled. "Tell them the truth. Every number, every detail. That's who we are now." The employee nodded and hurried away. Alex picked up his briefcase, ready to head home. On his desk, one last document waited for his signature: the official name change for the company's new cybersecurity division. At the top, in bold letters, "Skyward Secure, because trust takes flight." As he signed the paper, Alex thought about everything that had brought him to this moment. The betrayals, the lessons, the cost of trust, and the price of vigilance. His company had survived its darkest hour not just because he'd caught the conspirators, but because he'd chosen to build something better from the ashes of betrayal. Tomorrow, he'd stand before his employees and talk about the future. About integrity and second chances, about trust earned and maintained. About how sometimes the greatest threats come from those closest to us, but so do the strongest allies. But tonight, as he walked through the quiet building toward his car, Alex Chase finally allowed himself to feel something he hadn't felt in months: peace. His company was stronger. His team was loyal. And somewhere in the gathering darkness, a private jet took off, carrying clients who still believed in the promise of luxury, discretion, and trust. The sky above was clear and endless, full of stars and possibilities. Just like it had been on the day he'd founded Skyward Elite, all those years ago. Some things, at least, never changed.